The Centennial School District is called to order at 6:32 p.m. on May 10th, 2023, and a quorum is present. Welcome, everyone. We've got some things on the agenda today, so we're just going to jump right in. First up, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or edits to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will proceed as documented. You'll notice that the minutes of previous meetings were presented in the board book. Are there any additions or edits to the minutes needed? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Excellent. Rolling right along. I did not see anything. I saw one of those chain emails come through, but excellent. We're just going to roll right into reports. I know that our student Edwin was not able to make it this evening, but he will be at our next meeting, which will be virtual, but we'll still get a chance to wish him well. Next up is the superintendent's report. I'll pass it over to you, Superintendent Owens.
Great, thanks, Chair Slavsky. Good to see everyone this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share this report with you. First, as you may know, May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This annual celebration honors the many contributions and accomplishments of Asian Americans, Pacific Islander Americans, and Native Hawaiians. It also provides a chance for Centennial educators to better understand and support students who identify as AAPI. To that end, and as a reminder, on the screen you'll see the recently developed Centennial School District Monthly Celebrations and Heritage website, which is a collection of resources for our educators to be able to access throughout the school year. As you know, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. In recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week, this morning we held a Teacher Appreciation Breakfast at Centennial Middle School. Here you can see some of the pictures of the educators who attended this morning. And on this slide, you can see a few pictures from the event. Breakfast burritos from Don Pedro's were provided. Administrators and board members were on hand to provide them to our licensed staff and to appreciate them for the work that they do. Most of us know at least one educator we remember for their motivation, caring, or support. So please take the time this week to let our licensed staff know how much they are appreciated. And kudos to Chair Solowski and Director Andrews for attending this morning. There was a picture of Chair Solowski in her Centennial Dining Services apron, so that was nice to see, although we don't see it on the screen here. This Friday at 3:30 p.m. we have our groundbreaking event for the Centennial High School athletic facility upgrades. I look forward to celebrating this event with our board and athletic stakeholders as we memorialize this important stage in a process that has been in consideration and planning for several years. As I mentioned previously, during the morning of Thursday, April 27th, we held our first Classified Equity Summit. The event was a kickoff of ongoing district-wide professional development for all classified staff. The Equity Summit was focused on deepening the knowledge and understanding of equity in Centennial and establishing equitable practices. Here you can see a few pictures from the event, which included about 150 classified staff members overall, so it was a good turnout. And kudos to Dr. Katsuda, Director Wright, and OSCA President Chris Dowell for their work in putting this day together. And then on this slide, you can see the names of the planning team members that were involved in coordinating and facilitating the professional learning opportunities for this day. As you can see, there were quite a few people behind the scenes that were involved in the planning, so much appreciation to everybody that was involved. On Friday, April 29th, Director Southerton and Facilities Assistant Director for Environmental Safety and Sanitation, Joe Brown, and I met with a group of 19 custodians from throughout the district for one of our twice yearly collaborative work sessions. This is an evolution from listening sessions we've held over the past year to collaborative problem-solving sessions where employees from the district operations departments work together with us to help co-construct solutions to some of the problems of practice that they as a group have previously identified. So you can see there was a nice showing, and thank you to Chief Rosales Correa for taking some pictures of the event, or the listening session. We know registering a child for kindergarten is an exciting time in families. Director Stanley really knows that as a kindergarten teacher herself. We also know it can bring up a lot of questions, which is why tomorrow, May 11th, from 6 to 7 is our annual Connect to Kindergarten event at each of our elementary schools for families who have a child beginning kindergarten in the fall. Connect to Kindergarten is an evening full of information and preparation and provides the chance for families and elementary schools to connect. The evening gives families the opportunity to meet school staff, become familiar with their school, and learn the next steps to register for kindergarten. Families will be given the chance to meet the school's principal, or principal and assistant principal, and kindergarten teachers. They'll also learn more about topics such as registration, absences, transportation, and preparing to start the school year. It was great to see many of you at last week's Equity Audit Board work session. I appreciate the robust and solution-focused discussion. These data and results will provide beneficial information and impetus for systemic focus and alignment for improvement. There were both areas of celebration as well as considerable room for organizational growth, and I look forward to our ongoing work together in this effort. As was mentioned at the session, there are 2 more board check-ins planned with Performance Facts Lauren Klafke and the board regarding the equity audit, tentatively in June and then also in August. And we'll work with board leadership and Lauren to confirm our time with her with an eye on holding these during already scheduled meetings of the board instead of inventing new times for that. And to give a little insight from the school level, yesterday morning I had the opportunity to observe Powell Butte Elementary Principal Jared Austin leading the Powell Butte staff through a similar review of their school's equity audit to help inform their continuous action plan for the next school year. So it was nice to see at each level of the organization that there's a review being done and then specific actions that are being planned to correspond with the feedback that was given through the audits. Finally, on the slide in front of you, and then also you'll find an advocacy poster next to you. It's an advocacy poster describing to legislators the impact of a $9.9 billion state school fund. I've talked previously about the different funding updates we've had, so I won't repeat those. This poster here describes the budget impact for the district in terms of the deficit that would be created at the $9.9 billion funding amount. It equates that amount, which is $3.5 million deficit, to teaching positions and lost school days. It's important to note that we're not proposing those staffing or school day reductions through our district budget process. I want to make sure those who are listening hear that. However, it's important to communicate that the impact that that the budget means in relatable terms so that people understand what the dollar amounts equate to. As you can see at the bottom of the poster with the various logos, this is a collective advocacy message supported by various organizations including COSA, OSBA, OSEA, and OEA. The posters were created by school districts around the state, coordinated by COSA, and are being shared this week and next week with state legislators. The ultimate budget for the next 2 years will be based on the May economic forecast, with a report and legislative briefing scheduled in a week on May 17th. So in a week, we should have a little bit more clarity as to the state revenue projection, which will predicate the available funding that we'll have available for the next 2 years. So with that, I welcome any questions or comments that you have, and that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Owens. Questions? Please.
With the kindergarten roundup, do these kindergartners need to be pre-registered, or is it just, word of mouth? I don't have maybe I don't have an older sibling in the school, so I'm now 5, and how do they know?
Yeah, as much promotion as is possible with that, and Chief Rosales Correa can speak to any sort of promotion that he's aware of. I know that we're doing social media, obviously siblings of current students, and then word of mouth as well. And no, students don't need to be pre-registered, and in fact, this helps us with getting registrations because it helps knowing going into the summer how many registrations to expect. At the school level, you kind of know if we enter the summer with this many registrations, we know it's going to be a heavy year or a light year. So as much as we can shake the tree, so to speak, to get registrations, and this event really helps us in being able to do that. Chief Rosales Correa, do you know of any other promotional methods that we use beyond the ones that I mentioned?
Yeah, so for connected kindergarten, what we're doing mostly is sharing the directly to the school at their kindergarten levels, especially at the elementaries. And then we allow provosts via online, via social media, and on our website, and periodically sharing some via that info via messages via Facebook, via actual voice messages with the attachment of how you can connect with and how you can.
Thank you. Director Harden.
I had a question related to that. If we have families that moved into the neighborhood that aren't at the, joining the school district at the kindergarten level, should they attend the Connect Kindergarten?
Yeah, I would say that the Connect to Kindergarten is specifically around kindergarten. So if a family wanted to get to know the school, they can come into the school and schedule a time with the principal or another staff member to get oriented. Our school secretaries are very good at relating to people as they come in, but I know also sometimes families want a school tour or they want to know a little bit more about the programming at the school as well. I would say for this particular 1 hour event, it would be focused on kindergarten and maybe wouldn't be conducive to other orientation.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Thank you.
Director Shields.
Along those same lines, those of us who live on borders, what do we do to make sure, that little kiddo should be in our school? How do we communicate? Because it is difficult. When we moved into Pleasant Valley area, we were told that we belonged to David Douglas. And went to David Douglas and they told us that we belonged here. You guys told us to go there. I mean, we literally went back and forth until we could decide, because we're one of those border kind of situations. How do we communicate with people when they live on that street or in that area and they're really not sure? How do we say Centennial School District is your school?
Well, I don't have a ready-made answer for that question, so I don't want to try to invent one because I know the dilemma that you're talking about. I would say one way that we reach all of our residents is through the community, update to the community, so that goes out to every residence. Not to say it's going to be kind of a welcome when somebody moves in, but.
But have we been penetrating better in Damascus in those areas? Because that was a weakness that we had.
We fixed whatever the mailing issue was
Yeah.
last year.
Okay.
So what helped was going through the comprehensive boundary adjustment process because we got all of the analytics on the back end that they were able to help us with for knowing what residences existed. Because the Postal Service will only do broad catchments of zip codes.
Okay.
And so they don't really tailor that down unless you specifically address mailings. And so we were able to get specific residence addresses that were within our boundaries, which took a little bit of a, peel the layers back on the onion, a few layers.
I think if we had actually gone to the school, we would have gotten the answer, because the school seems to know a little bit better than maybe district staff, and was kind of the challenge.
Right.
That when you go to the school, they often know exactly where their kiddos are coming
We
from.
also have a school locator app that we purchased through, I'm Rolodexing the names of the organizations. Performance fat keeps clicking, but it is Flow Analytics. Flow Analytics has a school locator app that, in fact, they just reached out today to see if we were going to update our subscription to that. That helps us know specifically what's in our district and what's not.
Good.
That's how I found it. That app is great. That's how we found which school district you're, when you're in, when you move here. Yeah,
There you go.
it's great.
It's important. The development that is just to the south of us was designated as, it was designated as Gresham because it has, they had designated the Gresham zip code. And the new families moving into that thing was like, well, we're going to Gresham. It's like, where are you getting this information? It was literally on the developers.
Interesting.
Website. It was like, no, you're not. And we called them and said, you're not in Gresham. You are in Centennial. And there was a little discussion about that because I don't know what they were using to inform them. But it's like, No, those
Yeah.
are, those students, and it's clear now where we live.
It might be worthwhile for us to audit some of the residences that we know are kind of in the pockets that I think you're
Yeah.
describing
Yeah.
to see and just kind of verify if we have students attending in those areas.
Well, especially when you see David Douglas and North Clackamas buses go down your street. And you're like, why are those two other districts coming down this street? When clearly it's a Centennial district, so, thank you, I just feel sensitive about that.
Good?
Thanks, Director Shields. Any other questions on the superintendent's report?
So this update to flow analytics, I'm sorry, this is probably diving into the details on this, but, you know, we've got new streets going in. So does this update for new addresses?
So I think there's two things here. Number one is the school locator, which a person can put their address in. Your question is that school locator going to be able to know those new streets? Is that right? Let me ask them. Let me
That's a
make
great
sure.
question.
Yep.
Because there are, and that's not just out in Clackamas County, that's
Nope.
in Multnomah County as
Yes.
well.
Good point.
Quick question about our cheat sheet, so to
Yes.
speak. We've been hearing in the news, Portland Public, Beaverton, some of the larger school districts are starting to really talk about losses. Some of them maybe, as we are saying, if this were to happen, this is the equivalent to. So the equivalent to information is really key, that
Right.
we're clear about that. But we are hearing about other districts, and I'm not sure if that's an equivalent to, or if it's an actual situation based on what state budget, enrollment, et cetera, because we share information as school districts in the Portland metropolitan area. So what happens to one, oftentimes is assumed it's happening somewhere else, and so I just really want to emphasize the equivalent, and if they're having other problems, that we are able to differentiate.
Yeah, that's good, and I would agree with that, and it's good that you're highlighting that because, as you said, this is an equivalent to. It's not what we're doing. Every district's in a different financial situation. So, for example, you know, other districts may not have an ending fund balance similar to, you know, what we currently have, and so that's helping us to be able to smooth out some of the peaks and valleys in terms of budgets. Some districts have put general fund positions into federal relief funds that are temporary. Now, with federal relief funds ending, they need to pull those positions back out. That creates a cliff. And so I think that whereas ours is an equivalent to, you're going to see and start hearing, if you haven't already, which I think you're referencing, districts talking about actually needing to make position reductions. The reductions that we are going to need to make are not reductions, they are the sunsetting of temporary programming, and that's an important clarification I think we need to make for our community as well. There are certain positions that we're needing to sunset that were made through temporary 2-year funding through the ESSER unfinished learning funds, but that would not be considered a funding cut. That's a planned ending of short-term one-time funds.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Chris Dow. Excellent. Let's see here. All right. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. Thank you. I am at the baseball games, go Eagles. And I just want to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Our teachers are some of our biggest supporters, and we love them. And we will have a kind of year-end wrap-up prepared for the June meeting. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Chris. Go Eagles. All right. And then next up, we've got Amanda Kassab with a CEA report.
Hello, good evening, Centennial boarders and everyone. I I would like to start by thanking you all very much for all of the appreciation that's been shown to us already this week. It's been really, really nice. I know that many of us are feeling push toward, and this morning I was down a little bit, some time with others. Uh, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm getting unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Awesome, thank you. It allowed us some time to just kind of slow down and hang out with other people from other buildings. And so thank you very much for that. As we're heading towards the end of the year, and you guys had already kind of discussed, FTE conversations are starting to happen. Right now, I would like to take a moment to thank Director Sutherland for his fiscal management that has kept the need to cut positions at a minimum. We appreciate that. However, I also do know the budget is really tight and understand the challenges that it takes to create a balanced budget. Class size has been a major challenge this year, and I know that we've hired brought some positions on in the middle of the year and whatnot. And as we're looking towards next year, I'm hoping to just kind of keep in mind that when class sizes are on the smaller side, there's much more learning that's able to take place, relationship building, and just all around relationships. Sorry. So with that said, I just wanted to say thank you again and just slip in. I hope that class sizes are a topic of conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We are definitely keeping those as topics of conversation as we go through the budget process. All right, we've come to the end of reports. We are breezing right along. Next up, we've got confirmation items, which will be confirmed en masse. Do I have a motion? Oh, please, Roger.
It's not a motion. I'd like to make a request to pull agenda item 661 to discuss that briefly. It's the responsive classroom contract.
Okay.
I just had a few questions for leadership, and I just want to preface this by saying, again, it's my being a relative newcomer to the school board and district at this level. I just have some questions, a little bit of concerns. I guess when I see a sole source, a non-competitive bid situation, I always am a little leery, not accusatory. I hope this doesn't come across that way. It's just more just wanted some things vetted.
Great.
Just ask a few questions. So I prepared a few.
All right, well, we'll pull that out and we'll put that into old business or new business. What do you guys?
Let's put it into new business.
New business,
Yep.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I move we approve confirmation items except for 661.
All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Unanimously passed. Next up, we don't even need a break. It's only been like a half an hour. We're just going to keep on rolling. Old business. So, 7.1.1, approval of GMP number 3 for the ESSER project, asbestos abatement and remediation.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Solowski, and you have me for the next 3 or 4, so bear with me for a moment if that's okay. All right. So, yes, before you for consideration this evening is approval of GMP number 3 to Emmerich Construction Company under the Small Works CMGC contract the district executed in March. This is for asbestos abatement and remediation at Pleasant Valley, Patrick Lynch, Park Lane, Powell Butte, Meadows, Oliver, and Centennial Middle School. The total cost is $1,877,391.11. and it's recommended that the Board of Directors approves the award of GMP number 3 in the amount of $1,877,391.11 under the CMGC Small Works contract. I welcome any questions yet.
Thank you, Director Southerton. Questions? Hearing,
It is. It's great work, and I'm happy to elaborate a little bit more on the details if that's helpful for the board. It is a large amount of money, so we will be abating and putting back or replacing new floor finishings in approximately half of the classrooms at those elementary schools that were
Oh, great.
listed. As you may recall, we have a lot of old flooring in the district. We're also abating popcorn ceilings and doing additional work through this project at all those schools. So really important work, and we're grateful to be able to do it under the American Rescue Plan ESSER dollars. And so it's a great opportunity to improve the overall safety of our schools, which we're able to do through that funding. And so it will be great work.
thank you.
I move we approve GMP 3 for the ESSER project asbestos abatement and remediation.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right, unanimously passed. Let's go for GMP number 4.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Chair Slawski. And we are presenting these separately, so you have an opportunity to consider them independently of one another. And we do have different funding sources for some of them. GMP number 4 is for mechanical ventilation improvements at Powview, Park Lane, Patrick Lynch, and Meadows Elementary School. These improvements are adding mechanical ventilation that doesn't currently exist in these rooms in the form of mechanical cooling. So what happens when we get warm weather like this is that the ventilation is run a little bit slower because we don't want to bring in a bunch of hot outside air. Well, we all know the importance of ventilation. And so this utilizes the funding that we have through the ESSER dollars to add mechanical ventilation in up to 7 classrooms at each of these 4 schools. Additional schools within the district have a similar amount of mechanical cooling already. You'll recall we added mechanical cooling as a below-the-line project at CMS. CHS has some mechanical cooling as well. Butler Creek has some as well. Pleasant Valley has some as well. So this is about, equitable distribution of resources as we have them to try and raise all schools up to a baseline. And as other funds present in future years, this is a scalable system that we're implementing so we can do other classrooms. And I anticipate bringing forward a plan for Oliver Middle School for a similar amount of classrooms at a future date. We're still developing that plan. With that, it is recommended that the Board of Directors approves GMP number 4 in the amount of $913,397.42 under the CMGC Emmerich Construction of Small Works Agreement. I welcome any questions you may have.
Go ahead.
I'm curious, will there be anecdotal, actual data, temperature checks of how you're going to choose the classrooms that are being selected for it based on how sweaty the children are or other forms of data?
That's a unique measurement. We
I
will
know.
not be using it.
Okay.
But good question, thank you. As part of the bond, we repaired or are still in the process of repairing some, but we'll repair all mechanical systems that were in existence across the district and replace what cannot be repaired. And as part of that, we're installing a digital control system, or DDC. Part of that allows us to monitor, adjust, diagnose, troubleshoot remotely, and measure temperature as well as CO2 in every single classroom. And so we have that data now after it's been up and running for many months. And it's coming back as expected. The south-facing classrooms are generally hotter than the north-facing classrooms on the south wing, and the south-facing classrooms are generally warmer, albeit a little bit cooler than the south wing. The south-facing classrooms are still warmer than the north-facing classrooms in the north wings of our schools. So we'll be targeting those south-facing classrooms largely. Another component was rooms that were used for summer school. and planned to be populated in many cases during summer school. Those are largely one and the same, but occasionally we made an adjustment knowing that we will have students in attendance at the hottest time of year. We want those rooms to be included in this as well, or considered for inclusion in this, even if they might be slightly cooler in the month of May. They're the only rooms that are populated in maybe June or July, and they are hotter. So.
Thank you. I appreciate the thoughtfulness going into the planning.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a motion.
I move that we approve GMP 4 for ESSER project mechanical ventilation additions at the 4 elementary schools that you mentioned.
I second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 The ayes have it. GMP number 4, ESSER project mechanical ventilation has been approved. Let's jump ahead to GMP number 5. Director Southerton.
Excellent. Thank you. For your consideration is GMP number 5. It is a below-the-line bond project. So this is a different funding source than the ESSER projects, which were just before you and which you approved. This is because we were so successful in completing all the bond promises on budget, we actually had additional funds left over. Despite the challenging environment with inflation and supply chain and everything else, we still had additional funds available to do additional projects in the district that complied with the bond language or in the spirit of the bond and serve our students. And one of them was replacing the Butler Creek boilers. So these boilers are at end of life. They've performed well, but they're at end of life and they're struggling to perform right now and have more downtime than we would like to keep school comfortable for kids. So we put these out for bid with Emmerich Construction, and the total cost for replacing the boilers and all the associated work that comes with pulling boilers out and putting boilers in is $288,702.41. So the administration is recommending that the Board of Directors approves GMP number 5 in the amount of $288,702.41 under the CMGC Emmerich Construction Company Small Works Agreement. I welcome any questions you have.
Thank you, Director Southerton. Questions? Hearing none.
Make a motion to approve GMP number 5, Butler Creek Boiler Replacement Project.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 The ayes have it. We have approved the GMP number 5 Butler Creek Boiler Replacement Project, and that exhausts our old business items. Moving on to new business. Do you want to introduce this topic?
All right. Every 7 or so years, we have the opportunity to select math adoption materials, and it is time for us. Last year, we had language arts, and this year it is mathematics. And so our curriculum department went through a thoughtful process that engaged multiple stakeholders in being able to bring forward a recommendation for you this evening. I anticipate that Director Callahan and Ms. Jenny Lucas will have some good information to share with you that will accompany tonight's recommendation. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Director Callahan.
Thank you, Superintendent Owens, and good evening, Board. We'll just move this back and forth. Okay. We're excited to share our K-12 mathematics curriculum adoption recommendations for Centennial School District. Jenny Lucas, a curriculum and student learning administrator, will be co-presenting with me. Jenny has facilitated most of the math cadre meetings. These are the mathematics curriculum recommendations. You'll notice there are 2 curriculums, Envision Mathematics for grades K through 5 and Carnegie Math Solutions for grades 6 through 12. Each of the math curriculums will allow us to build continuity in our math program while shifting our instructional practices to focus on the mathematical standards practices. We will address that in more detail later. This evening, we'll share our process for making decisions for these 2 curriculums and how the curriculum is only a part of a quality K-12 mathematics program. Our vision, mission, and equity focus were drivers in our curriculum recommendation. Keep in mind that any curriculum adoption serves as the basis for building a coherent program, especially when we align our systems and shift our instructional practices to meet the needs of our students. In short, it is what we do with the curriculum that matters most.
Okay. Well, we formed a math cadre of staff members from across the district to support the effort to recommend a viable math curriculum. We met 8 times as a whole group and engaged in asynchronous work in between our meetings. We had 2 goals: to build our shared understanding of current mathematical instructional practices with an emphasis on identifying materials that support belonging, engagement, focus, and pathways, and to select materials that provide students access to high-quality instruction that includes challenging and coherent content in an environment where each student receives the supports they need to succeed in mathematics. This was a real team effort, and we would like to express our appreciation to each cadre member for taking the time and putting in the work needed to reveal our path forward for meaningful math instruction. In addition, Karen Kennedy and Stacy Ashcraft helped in the planning and facilitation of the cadre meetings, which relied on state and regional efforts as well as current research-based best practices.
The curriculum recommendations are part of our efforts to build a K-12 mathematics program, which will have touch points in the 4 pillars of our strategic plan. Over time, we will develop our capacity to ensure each student experiences equitable and grade-level access to mathematics, which is Pillar A. We'll have a plan for professional development that goes beyond the technical use of the curriculum to include how we construct engaging classrooms that elevate belonging and engagement, which would be Pillar C. In addition, we need to look critically at our existing systems and determine necessary changes to support math instruction. That would be Pillar D. This will also include how we communicate to our families about mathematics, Pillar B. The profile of the graduate crafted during our strategic plan will be one of our drivers for change of practice. An example, if you look at inquisitive and innovative, every one of these descriptors could be evident and should be evident in all math classrooms. The curriculum will help us to stay aligned across the grade level to realize this profile. We kept our district equity lens at the heart of our work, spending significant time understanding the importance of creating environments where students are engaged and they belong and can access grade level content. This summarizes our process. It's cumbersome. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of moving parts, but we wanted to just give you a brief sense of what this entails. So Jenny and I will divide up these steps here. As I mentioned earlier, we focused on the instructional practices based on the Oregon State standards and current research of mathematics instruction. We also use the state guidance, research, and the current state of our district to create a vision statement. This becomes the district North Star for selecting curriculum and to change in our instructional practices. Oops, sorry. Oregon is shifting their system to focus on meaningful math for every student. 2 of these focus areas are belonging and engagement, and so we put heavy emphasis on that with the cadre. Oops, I keep going forward, sorry.
Our cadre members experienced a rich learning opportunity provided by our English language learning TOSA, Mary Shortino, about embedding language acquisition into mathematics classrooms. This work supports our English language learners to access the vocabulary and language structures needed to engage in meaningful mathematical discourse. Cadre members used the state scoring rubric to analyze state-approved adoption materials and narrow the number of adoptions down to 2 to pilot in classrooms. These scoring rubrics rate the various elements of a quality mathematics curriculum. During the pilot process, staff members tested lessons, provided feedback, and collected feedback from students. Families were invited to view materials in both hard copy and digital formats. Students and family voice was part of the process of making our final recommendation.
And then we made every effort to stay objective and to limit our bias by asking leveled teams to make claims about the curriculum that they were viewing and to support it with evidence. With any curriculum adoption, there are many variables and complexities. These were our primary drivers we used to support our recommendation. We will touch on each of these briefly. The first one we looked at is the current state of our achievement in Centennial School District, which helped us to identify three main barriers: practices, systems, and capacity building or support for our educators. The state of Oregon is also focusing on these 4 areas that are listed in the bottom left-hand corner: focus, engagement, pathways, and belonging. For the curriculum work, we emphasized again the belonging and engagement. You'll hear that throughout the evening, since historically, neither have been part of math classrooms.
Okay, these are our mathematical practice standards, and these standards reflect a big shift in mathematics instruction. These practices are the basis for understanding mathematics, and they allow students to construct viable arguments to support their reasoning rather than memorizing a set of facts or algorithms. These practices will be a vital part of math instruction from kindergarten through 12th grade. The Oregon Department of Education uses the IMET rubric, an evaluation tool adapted from a national model to score published math curriculums based on mathematical practices and the shifts in mathematics instruction, including focus, coherence, and rigor. This is the rubric our cadre used to narrow our selections for the pilot process. We also used our district equity lens and our vision and core beliefs for math instruction as tools to screen the adoption materials. Mathematical discourse is a vital part of the math practice standards. For our students, it is critical to see opportunities for building language acquisition in our curriculum and teacher practices to build student skill level for engaging in rigorous math discourse. We are taking steps to elevate student voice, and we are using their input to influence our recommendation for you this evening. There's still more work to do in terms of engaging families in conversations about math instruction, and this will be part of our ongoing work during the life of the adoption and beyond. Here you see highlights from the student and parent feedback during the piloting part of our process. It is clear from their feedback that they could see opportunities for peer interactions and hands-on learning. And these are a few examples of staff feedback. Applying mathematics to real-life situations and experiencing integrated STEM activities and performance tasks were noted in both the K-5 and 6-12 recommended curriculums.
To close, we're recommending the adoption of Envision Mathematics, grades K-5, and Carnegie Math Solutions at grades 6-12 for up to be budgeted up to but not exceeding $1 million. And we'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions at this point in time? Director Gregory.
When I was prepping for the meeting tonight, there was one phrase I was kind of stumbling over. I made a run at the ODE website and trying to look this up. Don't want to sound like I'm splitting hairs, but says in the recommendation that the district is, by Division 22, the district is required to adopt guaranteed viable curriculum materials. Can you break that down for me in layman's language when they say guaranteed viable? Because two things come to my mind. One is it a curriculum that will have some kind of permanence in the district at all the levels you're wanting to have, or is it viability, meaning ease of access and use by teachers, staff, and students?
Great question. So I'll take a crack at it, and I'll see if Jenny wants to add anything to this. When I think about a guaranteed viable curriculum, I think about materials that allow students grade level access to those materials. Allow meaning that it's there, it's present, but the teachers have to use the practices needed to bridge that access. And so we want to make sure that every student has that guaranteed viable tool that they can learn mathematics with, along with the instructional practices.
To the best of your knowledge, is that the intent when OD lays this down in Division 22, that that's what they're looking for districts to adopt, is a curriculum that will allow students to easily learn it and use it if there's challenges, teachers, staff. I have to admit, too, a little suspicious of the AI concept, but I think Carnegie, from looking over that was impressive to see some of those things online, how they broke it down, how they approached it, and the amount of rigor and research, and also the studies that they've done to support what they are doing.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I would say that's Oregon's intent.
Really a question, but I really applaud your work here and the work of the team. I think it's just very thorough, and math is fun. And when I look at those workbooks and the textbooks, I think, oh my gosh, I want one of these. I want to start doing this stuff again. Anyway, great job. I think that this is a great recommendation.
Thank you.
Anything else? Excellent. Thank you guys very much. I also love math, so this was fun, definitely fun to look at. At this point, I will hear a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 2 recommended math curriculums, Envision and Carnegie Math, as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 The ayes have it. We have adopted some new curriculum, and I look forward to hearing more about the process and how that unfolds.
Thank you
both.
so much.
It's a new word. I wrote it down. I was going to look it up later. Next up, we moved the responsive classroom contract into new business. So at this point, Roger, would you like to take the floor and share your question?
Thank you, Sheriff Slofsky. There are several things that came to my mind with this. As I said, I just like to take a second look whenever the district is in a non-competitive, a single source type of situation. And from what I can observe this past year with the board, that's the exception for Centennial. That seems to be out of the norm. The usual is to competitive bid and hash things out and make a informed decision. So I just have some questions I will throw out there. First of all, and I probably know the answer to this one, but I just wanted to hear it. Is this a year-to-year type of situation? I'm assuming from the wording of the recommendation, it says this will be the second full year of district-wide implementation. I'm assuming that this present school year was the first. Is that correct? Okay. Are we year-to-year with CRS, the company? Is it a year-to-year thing, or are we in a multi-year contract?
Would you like to give you an overview of the work that we've done with responsive classrooms, and then it might answer some, or do you want to go through all your questions first?
No, that might, because that's what,
Okay.
I had some questions for the math curriculum, but they just answered virtually all of them, except the one, the bureaucratic language I was stumbling over. So go ahead with the overview. That will probably
Okay.
answer some questions.
Great. And that makes sense because we have 2 directors who are new this year from when we've had conversations in previous years about responsive classrooms, so happy to share information. So prior to the pandemic, way back, Park Lane and Oliver Elementary were SIG schools, and they went through an extensive process of looking at how do they change and really focus on school culture and climate. And they reviewed many programs and practices in place. And so responsive classrooms came out as the organization and the framework to support building a really strong framework for classroom and school-wide cultures. And so they went through a process and they trained all of their staff. And as SIG schools, it's an opportunity to pilot something and then expand out if you see changes in practices across those sites. And so both Oliver and Park Lane experienced a very strong shift, especially Oliver Elementary, when it came to their school classroom and climate. And so they went through that for a couple years. And then when they were going through that, Patrick Lynch had heard about the great changes that they were having. And so they had also used funds an additional year to do that. As those 3 buildings were going through the process, it was added in for our strategic plan as one of the action steps that we were going to take for implementation across the district. And then that was right around when the pandemic was going full board, and so we were not able to continue adding in other schools through that process. And so responsive classrooms typically has a 2-year cycle. There's 1 year where staff go through core training, which is 4 days, which many of our schools have gone through this year. Those schools had gone through before. And then they go through advanced training, which is also 4 days. So going into next year, that will be the 2nd year of this cycle, so that all of our K-8 buildings will have gone through the 4 days of core training, and then after next year, they'll all go through the 4 days of the advanced training. And then at that point, as a district, we will collectively have enough people trained and enough supports in place that we would continue implementation. So after that, we would not typically have a contract to this size with them. We should be able to support it in-house after that.
I'm assuming that there's probably data. Is there quantifiable data that shows positive impact and success from this program, from the schools that you piloted at?
We do have data from way back from Oliver and Park Lane when they were going through, and we have the number of reductions in overall referrals that students had received. We have climate and school culture perception surveys from that time also. And then one piece of data that we get as we're going through with the buildings is there's implementation data also. And so in about January or February of this year, all 8 buildings who have been receiving responsive classrooms training had a walkthrough, and there's many, many points that they're observing to see if we're implementing those, and then that information shared back with building teams so they can work to increase implementation as well. So we do have a couple data points there.
Another question I have, is there documentation available when the district was first looking at this for the pilot for the 2 schools? There is no comparable vendor nor product that's available to the district. That basically CRS is by itself in this. That was really the only choice.
Yes, and there are several other organizations that provide similar-ish training opportunities. And so part of what Oliver and Park Lane used with support from our district level coach, who is Chuck Tomac, is they looked at the What Works Clearinghouse. And so that is a database that has, you can look at curriculum, you can look at academic curriculum, social emotional curriculum, many, many things. And there's multiple points that programs could be graded on. And so that information was taken into consideration, and those buildings then, after they kind of sifted through everything that met the building's criterias of needs that they had. There were several that fell into the ones that looked like they would work, and responsive classrooms had the most thorough training opportunities for buildings versus some of the others. It's just like you get the materials, but there's not the training components that come as well.
And then the last question I have for you folks, and this comes out of the district's ongoing struggle with short staffing to some amount of teachers, but I would say it's been before us in greater relief this year is the continued struggle with the paraeducators, the EAs, the educational assistants. Will this, in your opinion, will this impact our ability to use this program effectively, or is that a non-starter? Can it be used regardless of the staffing situation? Can it be effective? Because Centennial's had struggles, to be honest, and just wondering how that plays in.
Yes, so this training is really geared towards classroom teachers as the primary recipients. So they are the ones who are facilitating classroom meetings in the mornings. They are the staff that are facilitating what they call interactive modeling. When students are engaging with content, they're directing the language that they're using while they're working with students. We are doing work with curriculum and instruction to connect this also with constructing meaning and with our new adoptions, so that staff are seeing that the strategies they're learning through responsive classrooms, they can use across the day. So classroom teachers are the primary focus, and we have included all of our educational assistants, elementary and middle school. They've been invited to participate in the training as well, so that they're getting the same language, they're learning the same strategies, and so any of the new educational assistants that we hire for next year would be included in the new staff training also.
Is CRS simply for the elementary, middle school, or is it something else, something different, or a different approach used in the high school?
So their training and their curriculum and their programming is geared towards elementary and middle school. They also offered an opportunity for us to meet with them about a pilot this year, and because of how extensive the work is happening at elementary and middle school and the work that's happening at the high school around restorative practices, they're really focusing on that work instead of trying to do a big lift around another training component for their staff. And so the bedrock that's getting founded for students in elementary through middle school is feeding into and will support work that the high school is doing as well.
All right.
Right?
Thank you for the overview and the
Yeah.
answers. I appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
I have one question that piggybacks off of a question already asked. The program I'm well aware is geared towards classroom teachers. Is there plans or a component that could be used with all support staff? Because school bus drivers talk with children, custodial staff talks with children. Everybody who is involved with our students could benefit from the strategies and routines that go with a program like this. I just am curious if there's anything in the works for all staff. And then secondary question, onboarding for new employees, classroom teachers, since this is so intensive, is that built into the contract, or is the district making plans so that new classroom teachers to Centennial can have the same thorough total of 8-day training that are really needed for a program like this to be successful?
So the question with all staff, how we've supported that, so educational assistants were included, our library managers were included in the training, our PE and music teachers also. So when we think about that group of specialists were included in the training so they can use aspects when they're teaching PE or when they're doing library. And then we also did overviews with school secretaries and the dining services staff that are in each building. So we asked members of their Tier 1 team to meet with those staff so that they could be aware of the overview of the program, and if there were any school-wide expectations and strategies that were in place, that they were sharing those with staff. We have not shared with bus drivers, and so that's a good piece for us to connect with the supervisor of transportation and talk about how could some of the elements of this be shared with bus drivers. So that's a piece that we could follow up with.
Sometimes that's how kid starts their day, and that greeting and that welcome just resonated with me. So thank you, I appreciate it.
And then onboarding, so for next year, going into the 22-23, and that's part of why it's more expensive going into next year, is because we've built in a core for elementary and a core for middle school, which will absorb all the new teachers going into next year. And then the following year after that, we will have the majority of everybody trained in core as well as advanced, and then we'll have a strong group of cadre teachers in all buildings that can help to support any new staff. We'll be able to do new orientation with them, and then we can assess based on numbers and what their experiences have been, what it will take to get them aligned with the rest of their peers with an equivalent of 8 days, because we're also trying to line the number of staff days with professional development, and so it's really hard once we start having some staff participating in something and other staff aren't. But it will be a part of the work next year to think about this long term.
Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate the extraordinarily thoughtful answers. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a motion. Don't everybody jump at once.
I had to look up what to call it, okay, and I've lost it. I would like to make a motion to approve the contract to CRS for responsive classroom training and implementation.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 The part's stressful, guys.
Thank you. At this point, let's go ahead and ask if there are future agenda items.
I have a small handful here. We have a report that will be provided from REAP. We had a report from that organization last time, so it'll be good to have another update from them. We have our Triple C recognition, which is our staff recognition award that's awarded annually, so we'll have that. You'll have a superintendent's year-end report to look forward to, which kind of summarizes the year. And then finally, and Director Southerton, correct me if I'm off on this, we have ESSER project for ventilation improvements for windows and door replacement. Is that right?
Yes, intend to have that working the next meeting. We may possibly have additional thoughts on the line items, we call it 6 projects in total. It's you have approved the full minutes of the last tonight, and boiler replacement, we may have exterior lighting.
So additional below the line items, just to make sure that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other things coming up for folks?
So did you say, Superintendent Owens, the superintendent report? Is that associated with the evaluation process?
I was gonna, yeah.
So does next meeting kick off our responsibilities for the evaluation process then?
Yeah.
I would say it's twofold. Number one, it's just a superintendent's report just for the community and the public in terms of the work that's been accomplished this year, but doubling also as a summary for the board as well, which would accompany a reflection that I would provide you via email that Friday that you would have. And then you would also have a form to fill out that accompanies the process, with the intention being that in the June meeting, we would have an executive session where we would go through those results at that point.
You bring up a great point. I think that what I'll do is we'll make sure that we get something out to you guys before the next meeting, so that it kind of outlines what we're looking for in terms of evaluation and steps for that. Because we got a new process and a lot of time was put in it, and it's great, and I'm excited.
Question or,
Please.
Missy sent out all of the new times for next year's meeting. Thank you, because that was important to clarify that on our calendars. Superintendent Owens, you were talking about the equity piece. Am I missing, that was supposed to be included in one of our meetings? I just got a little off track about what was going on in which meeting. So I have my phone, which is my, my mind and my calendar, so I just want to make sure I'm not missing.
So just to clarify, your question is around the times that Lauren will come back? Yeah, so our plan is for the June meeting and then August as well. Probably at the August board retreat.
Okay.
We'd have about an hour with her at that time. But I have not had that conversation with the two of you during our board leadership discussion, so I didn't want to say that that's what we're going to do until the three of us concur that that is what the plan is.
I think if we can combine them into the meetings that we already have on the calendar and not create new meetings, that would be fantastic.
Everything's fine. It's not enough meetings at all.
It's impactful.
It is. At summertime, we all have plans and things going on, so any way that we can, hopefully those dates work for Lauren,
Yeah.
and we can just make that happen.
And we've shared those with Lauren, I believe, I'm not sure.
Definitely the August 2nd retreat, we shared with Lauren.
Yep.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Excellent.
I just,
Yep.
trying to keep our world going.
Anything else for the good of the order? Yes, thank you. That was what I meant to write that down and say something about it. Yes, next Tuesday will be the special election, and encourage everyone to go out and vote. We've got some great candidates up for school board.
Oh, my.
Yes. Anything else for the good of the order? Anything from David? No.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a wonderful night. The meeting is adjourned at 7:36.
Wow.
Is that a record?
It's a record for the last few years.